Hello, welcome to Brumating your tortoise in Northern Nevada. This is going to be a short guide to walk you through that process. All right, so pre-brumation, weather is going to be the biggest indicator that your tortoise is getting ready for brumation. Less daylight, of course. Anytime it's going to be below 45 degrees at night. Remember, you do bring your tortoise in at nighttime. They will start moving less, be a little bit slower. They may even want to dig. That's natural. They don't know that they're going to be brumating inside of a storage shed or garage for the winter. So they think it's time to get their burrow ready for brumation. So that's totally normal. Start offering them drinks, start soaking them so then they get hydrated before brumation. So I just mentioned about brumating your tortoise, either a Rubbermaid type of container or a bathtub. Just put warm water, tap water, just past the bottom of their shell. Let them soak for 20 to 30 minutes. Not all tortoises like this, but I still highly encourage you to do that just because it is a good hydration. It helps flush out the urates from their bladder, helps excrete anything that is in their digestive tract. And then just make sure that they're dry. If it's a nice day, they can go back outside. If not, they'll unfortunately have to stay inside again. I get asked all the time, how do I know that it is time to brumate my tortoise? Because unfortunately they can't tell you that. So I mentioned already that the weather is, our days are going to start to get a little bit cooler. And then of course, then we have some, nice fall days. And it varies quite a bit in September, October. Tortoises, though, will become less active in the summer. If you remember, they were active very early in the morning. Now it's going to take them several hours to get a little bit more active. Your tortoise may stop eating, and this is completely normal. They are very smart animals. They know that 1 to 2 weeks prior to brumation, maybe even a little bit longer, that they do need to stop eating before they go into brumation. They cannot go into brumation with food in their stomach or in your digestive tract, or it will rot. So they know that they need to stop eating so that they don't die. 3 different box variations. Remember, your tortoise is going to brumate in a garage or storage shed. I still get asked if it's okay if tortoises will brumate in under a bed or like a closet. A long time ago, this was the case. When I was a kid, that's what I used to do. We didn't know any better. We now know that this is not the best place for a tortoise to brumate because it probably is not going to get between that 45 and 55 degrees inside your house. So I highly discourage that. They will probably still go into brumation. It's a lot harder on their systems because their bodies have to work a lot faster. Their heart rate's a lot faster. And they don't get into that sleep that they need to, and they burn through their resources a lot faster. So highly discourage that. Please do the garage or storage shed, and you can kind of mess around with different temperatures in both of those places. So 3 different box variations that you can consider. This first one right here is a small box that I got at U-Haul for about 99 cents. I just filled the bottom of it with dirt from my backyard, or can even take it from their existing burrow. And the tortoise is going to go in there, kind of just put the covers back on a somewhere in the garage on a shelf. And so I've indicated there a small box with dirt on the bottom. That's variation number 1. If you need to, depending on what the temperature is going to be for the 5 or 6 months that your tortoise is brumating, that medium-sized box, so the small box is going to go right inside of that medium-sized box. Add just a little bit of extra warmth, and so maybe when it's not super cold, but a little bit colder than maybe when your tortoise first went into brumation. And then variation 3 is that small box, again going inside of that medium box. And then you notice that there is some shredded newspaper that can go on the outside between the small box and the medium box to add extra insulation. You could do packing peanuts, or I even have some pieces of like full-size full-size packing peanuts, like from an old, container that something that got shipped to me. So just that will create a little bit extra insulation, extra warmth during those months that it's a little bit colder outside. All right, so brumation. Again, I've already mentioned placing that box in the garage or storage shed, probably typically off of the ground or cement where it is going to be a little bit cooler. If it's really cold, you could also, throw a blanket on the top of that. In the months that's a little bit warmer, I've a couple times I've actually taken like an ice pack. You want to put it in a couple baggies because obviously the moisture from the ice packs, you don't want it dripping into your tortoise, into the box and getting it wet. But I've even put that on the top of my little container just to kind of cool the air temperature down as well. So you could kind of consider that in the warmer months. I like to use a probe that I just get off of eBay, for a couple bucks, or you can go to the pet store. And I think I just type in something like a temperature thermometer or, thermometer for reptiles, something like that. Again, just for a couple bucks off of eBay. That probe will actually sit in where your tortoise is sitting. And then the digital probe that has the actual temperature will sit on the outside of the box. And literally, I can just walk by in a couple seconds and notice that temperature, what the temperature is for my tortoise. Again, the ideal temperature is between 45 and 55 degrees. And I can, just monitor that by walking by. After a couple days, if I notice it's too cold, too hot, then I can adjust where my boxes in the garage or the storage shed. I can, add packing peanuts, shredded newspaper. I can take out the packing peanuts or newspaper. I can try the different boxes. And that's why I gave you those different variations of boxes. So you have a couple different options to play with because of our weather varying quite a bit. Remember, the brumation period typically is the end of October, beginning of November, and then goes till typically again, sometime in May, June. We have had tortoises wake up, end of April. Just obviously depends on what our weather decides to do. Once you put your tortoise down, I would suggest checking on them quite frequently the first week. Just make sure that they really were ready to go into brumation. Again, that ideal temperature is between 45 and 55 degrees. It's gonna vary every month, just depending on what the weather is doing. Every couple weeks, go ahead and open up that box and literally pick up your tortoise. Take them out of the box, pick them up, check underneath their shell, check around their shell, smell them, touch their toes, their shell. Just make sure there's nothing that seems odd. You don't want them, excreting anything from their nose, their eyes. Make sure that the dirt isn't wet. And that's why I do suggest dirt on the bottom of the box so that you could easily tell if they have, gone to the bathroom. That is a sign of distress. And I would highly encourage you to make a vet appointment and get them in if you did see that. So that's why I recommend the dirt as opposed to shredded newspaper or something else where you wouldn't be able to see if the tortoise has excreted anything. So just literally, like I said, just check the tortoise, make sure that there's nothing odd, different from when you put them in there, and then quickly just put them back in and do it again, a couple weeks, once a month. I do suggest once or twice during that 5 or 6 months while your tortoise is brumating that you do soak them. And literally that's going to be the same thing as what you did prior to brumation. I like to do my soaking inside in my laundry room. I keep the lights off just because I think if it was me, if I was the tortoise, I wouldn't want to go from a kind of a darker garage and all of a sudden I have this bright light shining in my face. So I keep it dark, but it's a little bit warmer obviously because it's inside my house. So same thing, I soak them for 15, 20, 30 minutes. And then when I'm finished, I put them on a nice towel, I dry them off, I let them sit there for a few minutes. He may open up one eye for just a minute or so, but it doesn't wake him up enough. He's still brumating, and goes right back to sleep. But just do make sure that you have dried off your tortoise really, really well before they go back into that box.